Good evening. My name is Michael Schmidt, and I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Welcome to this public meeting. With me today and to my right is Vice Chairman Robert Cicero, and to my left, Commissioner Talina Matthews. We're accompanied by several members of the PSC staff this evening. They are John Lyons, Mary Beth Purvis, Matt Baer, Jeb Penny, Andrew Melikovich, and Jim Rhodes. We are here for the purpose of taking public comment on the application of the Kentucky Power Company for approval of an adjustment in rates and a certification of public convenience and necessity. The case number is 2017-00179. If you were here for the earlier informational session, you heard about this application in greater detail and also received an explanation as to how the Public Service Commission will go about reaching a decision in this case. If you missed the presentation, it is available on the Public Service Commission website, psc.ky.gov. This is the last of 3 public meetings the PSC is conducting to receive public comments in this matter. We held meetings last Thursday in Prestonsburg and Monday in Hazard. We understand that any matter that affects electric rates is likely to produce strong and differing opinions. We trust that everyone here this evening will present their comments in a respectful manner and respect the right of everyone else to be heard. Now let me explain how we will proceed for the remainder of this event. We are here to listen to the public. Therefore, there will be no presentations by Kentucky Power or any of the other parties to this case, nor will there be any question and answer period involving the parties. The Commission will be taking sworn testimony from the parties and their witnesses in a forthcoming evidentiary hearing. Allowing questions and answers on the record as a part of this meeting creates the potential for procedural problems later in the process. However, representatives of Kentucky Power Company have agreed to remain after the conclusion of the public comments to meet informally with anyone who has any individual questions they may wish the company to address. And right now I'd ask the representatives of Kentucky Power to stand up so that you can identify them, and if you have any questions after the meeting, please feel free to speak to them and they will listen to you and respond. Also, Ms. Becky Goodman from the Kentucky Attorney General's office is here, and the Kentucky Attorney General has intervened in the case representing residential ratepayers. And Ms. Goodman, I think, will be happy to address any questions that you may have that she can answer. Also, at the end of the meeting, and I'll reiterate that in a minute, staff of the Public Service Commission will also be available, not the commissioners, because we're prohibited from making any comment until we make a decision in the case. But staff members, some of whom you've seen up here, will be available to answer some of your questions, at least as they relate to the procedures which will be followed. So those of you who wish to speak have already indicated, I think, by signing a list that you wanted to make a public comment. If you've not signed in, you can still do so by walking out front and signing the paper. Even if you have not signed in, now or during the course of this meeting, when everyone else has spoken who has signed in, I will offer anyone else who would like to speak the opportunity to step forward and do so. So everyone will have ample opportunity to be heard. Now, based on the number of people who are here and who've indicated their desire to speak, we're going to permit 5 minutes per speaker so that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. When 4 minutes have gone by, Mr. Baer will hold up a yellow card so that you can see it and realize you have a minute left. When your 5 minutes have expired, he'll hold up a red card. Now, sometimes something might happen that you're in the middle of a thought and, nobody's going to ring a bell or anything, so you'll have plenty of time to finish because we absolutely will want to hear your comments. I will also say that Up through today, the Public Service Commission has received probably a little more than 150 letters from ratepayers in Kentucky Power's service territory, and between the three of us, we have read every one of the letters that have been submitted. So your comments will be considered, and that's why we're here to give you an opportunity to speak. But we can't answer any questions you may have. We're here to hear you. So those of you who do not wish to speak this evening may submit comments in writing, as I just referred to. We have comment forms available at the table out front, and you may pick those up, sign them, turn them in tonight, mail or fax them to the Public Service Commission. The address and phone number of the Public Service Commission are on the forms. As you can see, this meeting is being videotaped, and the videotape itself will be available on the PSC website and will become a part of the official record in this case. A summary of the public comments received tonight will be prepared and will also become a part of the record. The hearing, at the hearing during the Kentucky, written comments will be accepted through the date of the formal evidentiary hearing in the case. That hearing, during which Kentucky Power and other parties will present their cases to the Public Service Commission, will be subject to cross-examination and will begin at 9:00 a.m. on Wednesday, December 6th, at the Public Service Commission offices at 211 Sauer Boulevard in Frankfort, Kentucky, and may last several days. It is open to the public and will be streamed live on the Public Service Commission website. Three important things to keep in mind before we begin. Because the commissioners must rule on the Kentucky Power application, we cannot answer questions pertaining to the substance of this case. However, questions you raise during this meeting may well be of assistance to the PSC and staff as we prepare for the evidentiary hearing. And PFC staff, as I mentioned, will be available to speak to you at the conclusion of this meeting. The PSC has jurisdiction only over the rates and services of utilities. We have no jurisdiction over matters such as environmental standards or public health. Those are regulated by a number of federal, state, and local agencies. Therefore, the most helpful comments are those that directly address the merits of Kentucky Power's proposal with respect to the size and structure of the requested rate adjustment and the reasons for the adjustment. If you have concerns or questions about service or billing individual accounts, the most effective way to have those addressed is to speak to a member of the PSC staff after this meeting or call our toll-free consumer hotline 800-772-4636 during regular business hours. Now, when you come to speak, please state your name and place of residence. And again, please try to keep your comments to the allotted time so that others may have the opportunity to address the Commission. Now, what the Public Service Commission has done for years, including at the prior two meetings this year, when a public official comes to the meeting and asks to say a few words or speak, we always allow the public official, elected official, to speak first, because that person is the representative usually of all of the people or a majority of the people here. In this instance, State Representative Kevin Sinnett has signed up to speak, and Mr. Sinnett will not necessarily be limited to 5 minutes. So Mr. Sinnett, if you'd like to come forward, could you please do so and provide your comments to the Commission.
I'd first like to say thank you all for coming here to our area to address this extremely important issue. I've been in the state legislature going on 10 years. When I started, I had a full head of hair. And it looks like 9 years later, it's almost all gone. But I have to say, in a very serious note, that the rate increase of AEP has always been an issue and continues to be an issue in our area. You know, we used to have a saying, and I'm sure you've all seen it in bumper stickers, coal keeps the lights on. And now we're in a situation where it looks like corporate greed is going to be the mandate of whether or not people have lights to have on, because that's what's happening with this rate increase. You look back since 2005, 2015, we've had numerous rate increases placed upon the people of Eastern Kentucky. Now, earlier we had a shell game of AEP versus Kentucky Power, who's what. Fact of the matter is it's the same thing. It's the same company. They're just using a subsidiary. If they want to show a loss, they show a loss in Eastern Kentucky to justify a rate increase when overall they're getting a huge profit. And the problem with this is, ever since I've been in the legislature, the issue had become and had been discussed that AEP was going to use the Big Sandy plant, keep it open, and it was going to be a coal-fired plant. They were going to install scrubbers. There was going to be a rate increase. We knew this. And guess what? That didn't happen. Now, we have a situation where we have a totally economic downturn in Eastern Kentucky, and we have all relied on Eastern Kentucky as being our economic reason for being, and we love it, we work it. It not only is it mined in Eastern Kentucky, deep Eastern Kentucky, but it's trucked up here to the steel industry. It's used throughout our economy. It has been our mainstay. And AEP, by deciding not to make coal-fired plant and go to gas, has actually put a nail in the coffin of Eastern Kentucky. And they want to use the fact that the rates that they're getting, the profits that they are getting has gone down, but yet they are one of the main reasons why the profit has gone down. They have put the people out of work. They are causing the families not to be able to pay their electric bills, not to have a job because they decided not to use coal. That's simple. Now, I want to touch briefly on some things that I don't think citizens know, and I'm sure the PSC does. But under statute, a utility has to have a franchise fee with the municipality. And municipalities grant those because we don't have a choice. We either have to use Columbia Gas or AEP. Well, come to find out, because they have a franchise, a municipality can charge them a franchise fee. And it depends on what that municipality wants that franchise fee to be. Whether it is $100,000, $50,000, they get so much off their electric bill. But the fact of the matter is that no other company except a utility is allowed to charge back that franchise fee to the customer. For the last 9 years, I've tried to get a bill passed saying that that is not allowed, that the taxpayers pay for the upkeep of those right-of-ways, and yet the utilities using them, it belongs to the citizens. They're providing utilities. They have to pay for the utilities, but they get to charge that franchise fee back. That is in no way fair. And when I ask AEP about it, you know what they say? Well, we're allowed to do that because it's in our tariff. Well, one of the things I don't think the public acknowledges or knows, I should say no, because I didn't, is they write their own tariff, and they put it in there. So I think that's something that needs to be looked at, that's a fee, an additional fee that is charged to the customer. If this rate increase goes through, which my understanding is it's fair, just, and reasonable. That's the standard that has to be considered. So if you look at if it's fair, just, and reasonable, let's look really at what was brought up earlier as to what the management makes at AEP. Not just Kentucky Power, but AEP. And anybody can look it up online. It's unreal as to what those individuals make. And I'll tell you what's also arrogant is last general session, 3 corporate jets were flown in to Frankfurt at a tune of over $300 and some thousand. And they're asking for a rate increase. The trickle-down effect of this rate increase, not only does it just hit the person in the pocketbook for the rates that they have to pay, but it is going to be such a trickle-down that there are costs that go into running a water plant. There are costs that goes into health care. There are costs that go into any other business, and that's going to be passed on to the consumer. So the rate increase is just not going to be on that bill. That rate increase is going to be spread throughout every single aspect of the citizens within this district. I also want to talk a little about, when I touched on it, when we talk about fair and reasonable. Since 2005, the company's stock price has increased by more than 100%, and its dividends for shareholders has increased by more than 70%. Now, I understand that during this formula that was presented, that has to be taken into account. Well, that's a pretty good rate of return, if you ask me, if you're looking at that value of over 70% and stock increase at more than 100%. There's also, in my opinion, after you put the nail in the coffin of the coal industry, after you've disrupted lives, people have made life decisions, family member after family member be coal miners, to be truckers, to work in the coal industry. AEP looks like they know what they've done, so they've decided to create an economic development board, cabinet, whatever they want to call it, team. That's not what we want. We want fair priced electricity. That committee, board, whatever they've set up is nothing more than a smokescreen, because companies can't afford to come in and open up a plant, open up a business when the rates are so high. Small businesses are going to close because the rates are so high. So this feel-good, fuzzy economic development team that they put together really is nothing more than a smokescreen. That's all it is. What's going to bring businesses here and what's going to make our area survive? Number one is going to be our work ethic. Number two is that it's going to have a good cost of doing business here, not a high cost of doing business here. I just want to close in saying that I care about my community. I care about Eastern Kentucky. I go to the legislature and I feel jealousy even from the legislators from the far end of Kentucky, because in our region, we're Appalachia, and we're family, and we stick together, and we help each other out in times of need. And I'm telling you, this rate increase goes into effect, it will be felt deep in Eastern Kentucky. And it's not fair, it's not reasonable, but we'll look out for each other, and we'll survive. But I ask this commission to look at the facts, look at how many rate increases that AEP has had in the past, look at what they've said, and look at what they've done. When you have to pay back money, they weren't being very truthful at all. When you said you were going to put on scrubbers to keep the lights on by coal, that didn't happen. It all comes down to the shareholders' bottom line. They can call it AEP, they can call it Kentucky Power, they can call it whatever. It's all the same corporation. They're just moving the numbers. My father had a saying, and I'll leave with this. Numbers don't lie, but the people who use them do. And I think that needs to be looked at. Thank you.
If there is and you'd like to come forward and speak, now's your opportunity to do so.
You called us by the list?
Yes, on the list. I mean, are you an elected public official?
I'm sorry.
Or if you're not, if no one's here, I'll then call the individuals as they're listed on the sheet, okay? All right, the first is Terry Priest. Hey, you knew that.
I've been here for an hour waiting on you all.
Okay, I am going to ask for some leniency because in the question and answer period beforehand, I got cut off. So I am going to ask for some leniency on time. Welcome, like the other gentleman said, welcome to Eastern Kentucky. Mr. Smith, I know you by reputation. I have been living in Paintsville for the last 15 years. My home is in Lawrence County. So the gentleman a few minutes ago was talking about the closure of the Kentucky Power Plant. I realize that's an over and done deal. When I was trying to make a statement and answer a couple of questions of his earlier, with your all's permission, I'll go ahead and answer. When Kentucky Power closed our plant, they decided what the Mitchell plant was worth. Nobody else stepped in. You all decided what it was worth, AEP. They decided they were going to close that and buy out the Mitchell plant. We had several people in the meeting at Louisa that had family members that worked at Mitchell. They stated very plainly, the Mitchell plant is down, out of production more than it's up and running. Louisa plant never missed a day. Why would you close down a good plant and throw our money into a junk plant? Now, the value of that plant, like they've been said several times, AEP, Kentucky Power, all the same thing. They said we've got to charge consumers millions of dollars for the purchase of the Mitchell plant. There's the Mitchell plant, what is it, West Virginia Electric? Here's AEP or Kentucky Power, but they own both. It was millions of dollars for a paper change, to change the names on a piece of paper that we had to pay for. Now, I hope that answers part of your questions. Why are the shareholders basically guaranteed a return? Stock market don't guarantee nothing. People's lost their entire fortunes. Stock market's riding up and down. It's not right that we have to support their cotton-picking paychecks. They invest. If it goes up, they make money. If it goes down, they lose money. That's what the stock market's all about. I know you all are invested in the stock market if you've planned ahead. You know it's a risky business when you buy stocks in anything. If not, the government would have already put all of our money, Social Security and everything else, in the stock market. But we all know, it goes up, it goes down. Nobody can control it. Why are the utilities shareholders guaranteed a cotton-picking return? It's a crapshoot. That's what the stock market is. We all know that the power company has it. They talk about their overhead costs during disasters and damages. We all know they've got insurance, just like you've got insurance on your car and you've got insurance on your house. They've got insurance against damages. Why are we asked to not only pay to build it, but to pay to repair it over and over again, and they're getting a check from their insurance companies when there's a disaster? If the industry pays less because of a lower fixed rate, okay, the industries pay a lower rate. How is it that everything I've read about this meeting says that the industries subsidize the residential rates? The industries pay a lower rate, but for tradition, they've been asked to subsidize the residential rate. That don't even make sense. I don't care how big your pencil is. I mean, if they're getting a lower rate. Now, like the one gentleman said, they holler that the industrial customers have moved out of the area. Why is that? I think you answered it. Because coal, they shut down the power plant. Coal was our bubble. Coal has been Eastern Kentucky's bubble that protected us from economic downturns since the 30s. We've always done a little bit better when the rest of the country done bad. Now they took that away from us, and then they holler, oh, we don't have no industrial customers. They're all leaving. Why? Because Eastern Kentucky is supported by the coal industry and the feed industries coming into the coal industry. Without the coal industry, we don't have the feeder groups coming in. Money's not being spent. They don't have the customers. They cut their own throat on that one. They put the feeder industries out of business. Loss of industry. Eliminating employee discount. The other gentleman made the comment, and I think he just simply misquoted your all's picture on the screen. He said that they were adding employee discounts, but it said eliminating the employee discounts. Yes, sir. I asked, and I realize it wasn't you group, I asked at Louisa, don't reward a bad decision. I'm self-employed. I've got a small business here in Eastern Kentucky. If I make a mistake and make a bad decision, right here's where it comes from. And I'm not pulling nothing out but my billfold. The other gentleman liked to freak when I reached
We're
in my
looking for the
pocket.
back door here.
Right here's what absorbs it. It comes out of my bottom line. It comes out of my paycheck when I make a bad decision. I've got competitors. I can't raise my rates and outprice my competitors trying to absorb it. I have to eat it. Isn't it about time with all their bad decisions, they have to start eating some of their own bad decisions? Now, I'm begging you, gentlemen and ladies, quit rewarding a bad decision. I realize our plant's done. They promised us that with the stable rate of natural gas and stuff on this plant, that our rates would remain a little more stable. Guess what? Every chance they get, they apply for an increase. And traditionally, with your all's predecessors, they apply for a 30% increase, they give them 15. The next time they're eligible, they apply for another 30%, they get their 15. They've got their 30%. You all, as a body representing us, need to tell them no once in a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael D. Brown.
Good evening. Glad you all here. Mine's short and sweet. I agree with this gentleman. You have heap on your bills. I don't know why. I don't know why we couldn't institute something for folks on fixed incomes. My mother's on a fixed income. She receives $800 a month. Okay? If you're going off averages, and the average bill of the houses are, let's say, $120 a month. That's just averaging them. Well, that's a large portion of her income. Why can't we do something? You've already got something built into the system on the heap side. So why can't we incorporate something else to help these folks if you're not going to slow down these rate increases? I just don't understand a lot of stuff. I've been educated this evening. I actually got a gentleman that explained every line on my utility bill. I've asked many times, nobody's been able to do that. This evening I found out what it was. I didn't like what it was because I think it's unfair to us as the consumer, because I know larger industrial companies gets a better rate per kilowatt than we do. We're paying, I remember we was paying 4.99, now we're up to, what, 8.75. But there's so many other things that's added to it now that I just don't understand why it keeps escalating up and up and up. At some point in time, like these folks are saying, you got to decide, what are you going to pay? So I just think it's unfair. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mark Johnson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak and provide public comment. My name is Mark Johnson. Address is 1027 Carter Avenue, 2147 Carter Avenue, Ashland, Kentucky. I'm the business manager of the Tri-State Building Trades Unions. And we have 33 counties in 3 states, and 17 of them are in eastern Kentucky. The farthest west of our jurisdiction is Flemingsburg, down to Moorhead, down to Hazard. And so everything is mostly in Kentucky Power's region. Come here tonight determining inform you of what our membership does. You know, we have 10,000 members basically in eastern Kentucky and 20,000 if you count all 3 states. And contrary to public belief, less than 20% of our members actually work on public works projects. And that's building institutions and schools, hospitals, and so forth. What most of our biggest customers are is industrial users. And we provide construction and maintenance services to every major industrial facility up and down this valley, and including Marathon, Calgon, Special Metals, AK Steel, and so forth. But anyway, one of the best customers that we've had is Kentucky Power and Louisiana, providing services to the Big Sandy plant. Now, granted, Big Sandy in the future will not be what it once was to us. We have worked millions of hours there at Big Sandy providing maintenance services and capital improvements, and continue to this day doing that. It's our members is the one that's taken down the unit down there, and we was the ones that imploded the cooling tower. But having said that, we've also do services in the transmission side, and their service centers. We build new service centers. We do capital improvements to those. And as far as customers and users of our services, we have no better customer in eastern Kentucky than Kentucky Power. And so that's important. Now, determining rates and what's fair and equitable is above my pay grade, and I'm not here to comment on what's fair and what isn't fair. But what I'm here to comment on is the economic development initiative that's in that part of it. And economic development is the future of our kids and children and economic opportunity in this region. And developing small, I believe the economic development efforts that's happened is really beneficial, and it's a key component to attracting many, not only big and small industries, but it was key in attracting big industry like the Brady Industries. And I'm told that Brady Industries will utilize about 60 megawatts of power. And what we really need to do is attract more big users to keep rates low. And so therefore, I support the economic development component, and so does our members. We need that more economic development in this region. That's our future. And I believe that is a key component worthy of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Gibbs. It's going back down again.
Hi there. My name is Tim Gibbs. I'm from Wharton, Kentucky, and I'm the president and the CEO of the Ashland Alliance, which is a regional chamber of commerce and economic development organization. And our primary service area is both Greenup County and Boyd County here in northeast Kentucky. And I, too, here is speaking about the economic development components that are paramount in this rate case. That's where I think that we have some input that would be beneficial for your consideration. Since 2016 to 2017, Kentucky Power has spent nearly $300,000 on economic development in Boyd and Greenup counties. And primarily, this has been through their 2 programs, their KEEP program and their KPEG program. KEEP, Kentucky Power Economic Advancement Program, and the KPEG is Kentucky Power Economic Growth Grant. Now, these are on your bill. They show up on your bill. There's a rider that shows up for economic development. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. If we continue to have outward migration from eastern Kentucky and we continue to lose loads, then rate increases are something that comes more and more often. If we have economic development, if we can stabilize the population base, if we can keep our existing businesses and have new businesses, we're going to have new opportunities as well, and hopefully we can have a more stable rate and something to build upon. What these grants have done is they have leveraged the assets that we have. They have done the work that needs to be done for us to define our competitive advantages as a region, to market those competitive advantages, and to win and to have growth in this region. Over the last year, there has been 790 direct jobs affected by these grant programs. Primarily, there's been 3 successful recruitments, and we can go into each one of these and the investment and the job and even the load that will come onto their system here. The gentleman that was speaking before was completely right. If you have a shopping center, you need an anchor. You need the core component that will bring other things along and give you the opportunity to even create more things than just the one thing. With the Brady announcement, with the Wright Concrete, with the Steel of West Virginia, with the expansions that we're having, and the things that these funds are being used for, it's making a significant difference. We've invested in our people. There was another comment earlier about that. It is about our people. It is about our competitive advantages. They've invested in workforce. They've invested in the things that gave us the tools to be successful. When we recruit industry, we have to show them that they can have long-term success. Not a one-time incentive, but long-term success. Doing workforce studies, defining the attributes, the skill sets, how they learn, how they commute. All of those assets are key and paramount for us to be successful in economic development. We've done more than just recruit businesses. We've also set the stage on investing in our sites, certified sites as well, where you're doing the due diligence of your sites, where you do have a platform to know your dirt, know your people, know your forte, know your audience, and then market directly to them. They have been a wonderful partner from Pikeville to Greenup, working with economic development. We know no one wants to pay more money. They don't. And I brought my bill here tonight too, because I pay it every month too. And when I see the bill, it does seem convoluted to me. And I do think there's some room to clean things up, to have more transparency, to do things. And I think part of that's included in this case as well. There is a positive wind at our back, but there's still a lot of pain out there. We need to continue the course, continue to invest in our future, invest in things that's going to stabilize the population, that's going to bring more industry to the table and make a bigger economy for all of us to build into. I know it's a difficult job. I know it's a thankless job probably. But I want you to see the other side of it as well, that we do have growth, we do have opportunity, and it is making a difference what they're bringing to the table. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. Our better days are ahead. We just need to keep the course. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Coleman.
Good evening. My name is Chuck Coleman. I'm the business manager of Local Union 978 of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. We represent employees of Kentucky Power in Ashland, Pikeville, Hazard, and the surrounding areas which make up their respective districts, as well as the employees of the Big Sandy plant. I'm also the vice chair of the IBEW System Council U9, which represents AEP employees in 11 states. I'm a former AEP employee myself. I'm currently a customer. I have had a direct relationship with the company for about 40 years now. Now, I thought the presentation was very good that preceded the opening of this meeting. I thought it was informative, and you may be happy to hear, and all of the folks here in attendance may be happy to hear, that it will serve to significantly reduce the volume of the remarks that I had intended to make here this evening. Okay. But without repeating everything that most of us, I think, have already seen, just to briefly summarize the reasons behind the rate request. There has been a decrease in the customer base resulting in decreased revenues. The company's expenses have increased due to upgrading of the electric network, without going into all the detail. And also, there have been rising operating costs, which include some environmental concerns. And there's been a lot of discussion about the Big Sandy plant here this evening. But it might be worthwhile to repeat that the company has submitted an updated application reducing its request or requested increase by $6.3 million. So, although labor and management don't always agree in these matters, this is one where labor and management are in agreement and see the necessity for this rate increase. In the last several years, we've seen too much downsizing in the electric utility industry, and this is a perspective of labor. And we are not an intervener, but we do believe that we have a unique perspective in the matter. We're currently experiencing a temporary hiring freeze across the AEP system due to economic considerations. At the Big Sandy plant alone, because of environmental issues, they were forced to reduce the size of the plant and the nature of the plant from a continuous load coal burning plant to a gas peaking plant, which has also reduced the workforce. And I heard a lot of speculation and reasons why that may have happened, and maybe some confusion around that subject, but we believe it was driven by EPA. So therefore, we believe it to be a valid concern that this request should be granted for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is that without it, we could see more reductions in force, which always create a negative impact for the employees. And that also extends to the families of the employees and the community at large, not to mention the further reaching effects on vendors that serve the industry. And finally, I think it's worthwhile to note, although it was touched upon in the presentation earlier, that the regulated utility industry is a proven concept. And I believe that the Commission and the industry showed the good judgment to keep it regulated in the state of Kentucky. But in order for it to function, sometimes we have to realize the harsh reality of what ballpark we happen to be playing in. And we have kept the rates low by maintaining the regulated utility industry. And the basic principles of that concept have to be applied, otherwise it doesn't work. So first, we as customers must all be willing to pay our fair share so that everyone can be served. And secondly, investors have a right to some expectation of a reasonable return on their investment, and that's a necessity in an investor-owned utility. If there isn't any investment, there's not going to be any utility. When you flip the switch, the lights don't come on. So for the foregoing reasons, we ask that you give every consideration in this matter. And I'd like to thank you for your time and your kind attention.
Thank you. Paula Bowling.
Hi, welcome. I'm Paula Bowling. I live 10 minutes outside of Ashland, Kentucky, in Boyd County. I don't support any more increases for vegetation management, and I have a couple of reasons for that. I watched for several years as Ashland, which maybe I shouldn't name that, but they had contractors and they were charged with cleaning up the right-of-ways. I watched those folks come in the morning and they would sleep in their trucks until their supervisor came around in the evening, and then they would saw down a tree or they would cut a little brush. Until they manage those programs better, I'm against paying any more for vegetation management. On top of that, I think infrastructure upgrades, I think if we're looking at infrastructure upgrades, that we need to look at bringing our power lines off of poles and putting them underground. This eliminates a lot of problems with trees and vegetation management. If we're going to do infrastructure upgrades, I would like to see that money go towards burying our lines. And that's where I'm at with it. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark Hornbuckle? No. Larry Massey?
How are you? My name's Larry Massey. I live in Worthington, Kentucky. I've been in the power industry for 30 years. I've made my living cleaning power plants with explosives. The coal-fired industry has fed my family and put both of my girls through college. I've worked for AEP for 30 years. I don't specifically work for AEP, but I'm a contractor that they hire to work for them. Let's be clear, AEP's done a lot of wonderful things for our community. Kentucky Power is owned by AEP. Let's be clear about that. Let's not make any mistakes of who they are. However, every rate increase that we've received from AEP has been the rate increase that was going to fix everything. American Electric Power said that they were going to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2005, the rate increase so they could build scrubbers, so they could burn coal from eastern Kentucky, which they don't do. They burn coal from Powder River Basin and a blended mix from Pennsylvania. That was supposed to be to help the miners, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that'd be against that from eastern Kentucky, but it didn't happen. And I'm not saying that that blame lies solely with AEP. The Environmental Protection Agency has been very, very hard on the power industry, and that's a fact. However, I don't think that we can sit back and allow the least among us to suffer any more than they have. And I think for the record, to be fair, I need to ask a couple of questions of the commission. And these are questions, these aren't accusations.
You know, we can't answer.
I understand,
Okay, all right.
but I want this to be recorded for public
Okay,
record.
all right.
There's a company coming in here, Brady. It's an aluminum company. There's a chance and for some folks to go back to work, and God knows that's what we need. I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but I've been doing some research. The gentleman who is, he's on the board of directors of Kentucky Power, which is basically AEP. He is the CEO of Alcoa Aluminum, a competitor of Brady. He's on the board of directors of Kentucky Power. I'm not making an accusation. That seems. There's a gentleman who's on the board of directors for Kentucky Power who is also the CEO of Alcoa, which is a competitor of the Brady Aluminum Company. I'm not saying that there's anything illegal going on. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is this is a question. This is something I think that everybody involved with this should know, that this is in fact the truth. This man is a member of the board of directors for Kentucky Power, and he's the CEO of Alcoa. There is an aluminum plant trying to come in here. This rate increase may kill that. It has the potential to kill it dead. There goes those jobs. I'm not saying that there's any collusion or anything illegal going on, but that's very coincidental. I find it to be very coincidental. Now, my other comment, since the commission can't comment, is the gentleman who is, there's a gentleman named Matthew Satterwhite. He used to, that's you? Yeah. You are the CEO of Kentucky Power? Mr. Satterwhite, it doesn't list your salary on the website. I was just curious. Can you share that with us? Pardon?
It's your chance to make comments to the commission on that part of the show.
I understand.
You can ask him after the hearing.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be forthright and tell me that. The thing I'm asking is, you used to be the attorney, or you're still an attorney, I would assume, that lobbied against, or lobbied to the Public Service Commission. And my question is to them, you can't answer any questions though, so who the hell do I ask a question to?
Staff or Kentucky Power or
The Attorney General.
after the hearing.
After the hearing?
Or you can approach them now, but I mean, we're not
No, it
going
wouldn't
to.
be a good idea. The senior citizens of our community, this isn't going to affect me. I make a good living, I make good money, and my kids are grown, and things are going good for me. But there are so many older folks in my community in Worthington, Kentucky, that this is going to be the difference between being able to eat or relying on the kind-heartedness of folks from the church or their kids or their grandkids. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot of money to a lot of people, and it's not a lot of money to a lot of people, but to a growing number of citizens in our community, this is a significant amount of money. And I think that, you know, I've got the numbers here. The top 5 executives at AEP made over $23 million last year. And you know what? I know it's hard for a company like AEP to recruit talent. I know that it is. And part of recruiting talent is being able to pay a good salary and have bonus incentive. And I agree completely that folks in a CEO's position, such as Kentucky Power, a subsidiary of AEP, you've got a big job and you should make great money, and you should, and I'm not disputing that. But it's very hard for a 75-year-old widow to understand an $11 million bonus paid to a man when she can't afford to eat, because if she doesn't pay her electric bill, she will freeze to death this winter. And that's really all I have to say.
Tom Hilgendorf.
Thank you for letting us give our opinions and so forth. My name is Tom Hilgendorf. I'm a resident of the city of Ashland, and I'm a senior citizen. I'm 68 years old, and you know, one of my main concerns was everything keeps going up, from city utilities, electricity, whatever services you have. But the only increase that we can get is with our Social Security, which 4 years previous to this, I think we maybe got $15 a month extra. You know, 1 year there wasn't any increase on it. If there was any way, I believe it was expressed that it's not possible to show any type of preference to a certain group of people, but that, say, what the required age for retirement, I think is 66 now, that they base an increase on people that verify their age, that they cost of living increase that the federal government gives us, that the increase for senior citizens would be based on that increase that Social Security is given. Just because, you know, it's still not going to keep our head above water, but, you know, it would help a little bit. And the other thing, okay, when, you know, we're hoping this Brady industry, everything does work out, and in 3 years or so, maybe they're online, and we're hoping that this is to be bringing in more jobs, more people are rebuilding, more people will be moving into this area, that this customer base that supposedly is the main reason that they're having to increase their rates, because they had so many people lost off of their rates or their customers, that this customer base and the usage goes back up, that they can revisit this in 3 years, just approve this increase for 3 years and revisit this increase. And at that point, you know, because he said that only time they have these rate increases is when the company requests them, not when the public service can, but they can do it. Because say if they get this increase before all this new influx of business and maybe people moving into this area, the profits go way up, higher than what they anticipated. Well, they're not going to ask for a rate decrease, so they'll just keep doing this until who knows when. So in 3 years, 4 years, whenever Brady Industries is rolling, you know, and people have moved in and what have you, then their customer base is a new customer base. Then they can look at it again and say, well, let's change it again. But I think the Public Service Commission in 3 and 4 years should request another look at this to see, you know, what their money is. The other thing is, I can't see where the Kentucky Power, their operating expenses would have gone up that much because they don't have meter readers anymore. It's all automatic. So that means they don't have people driving around. That's a payroll item. They don't have to supply the trucks for all the people that are driving around and reading your meters, you know, since it is automatic. So there should have been at least a leveling out of the cost of the manpower on that. And in the paper here, I brought my copy from me. It's pretty faded already. But they were saying the average bill right now, which should be in here, is $142 for the 1,400 kilowatts per hour. Like I mentioned in the question session, why can't they start the base at, say, 500 kilowatts, from there up, you know, and then determine anew what the average kilowatt usage per household is? Because I don't think that's a fair or a transparent answer, you know, for what the average kilowatt. The people I've asked, and I know, there's nobody at that 1,400 kilowatts. You know, because they got to be figuring in vacant houses, people that are gone for time periods or whatever, they just got lights on or something. And that's going to drive that average way down for the average kilowatt per household use. Because they're saying that right now the average rate is $142 for the 1,457 kilowatts or something like that. But right now, in my hand, I have a bill for 1,316 kilowatts, which is less than what they said the average was. And this bill is $172. That's what they were going to estimate the new tax would be with the increase in it. They failed to bring up that there's a 34% add-on to that kilowatt usage in that bill. There's so many add-ons in here that I'm not going to name them all. You can look at your own bill. But there's a 34% add-on to that bill. Okay. And then, you know, it was brought up the question and answer session too. Power company says, here, we'll give you light bulbs or go buy the energy efficient refrigerators and what have you. And then heat pumps and so forth like that. We'll give you rebates. And then they come back and say, you're not using enough electricity. So, you know, something's wrong here. You got one hand saying one thing and the other one, you know, taking it back on that request. You know, it's just, you know, the money that, you know, here again, it's water over the dam. You know, when they gave the PSC gave permission for them to not use the scrubbers on the Big Sandy, that affected the railroads, that affected the people doing the coal, the hauling the coal, you know, and then the tax base for all these cities and so forth on here. I think that was probably one of the poorest decisions that the Public Service Commission could have made. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam Adkins.
Good evening. My name is Sam Adkins. I'm the Chief Development Officer for the Kentucky Educational Development Corporation. We're one of the 8 educational cooperatives across the state of Kentucky. We're not here to speak directly to the rates. We will defer to the Kentucky School Board Association and their intervention on that in that respect. We are here just to speak to Kentucky Power and AEP and, you know, more of the economic development and their, as a friend of the community and education specifically. We applied for and received a grant from the AEP Foundation to provide some distance learning and virtual education to schools, high schools across the AEP region. And, you know, we're grateful to that, and Kentucky Power was instrumental in us being able to receive that grant. And, you know, talking to them and working through the grant, you know, our goal is to provide opportunities to kids that they don't have. I think we all know folks that have been victims of this, you know, war on coal that we've all experienced. And we know that there's got to be something that's going to come in and replace that. And so one of the ways we can do that is we can make opportunities available to these kids that they don't otherwise have. We can give them the ability to, do a Great Barrier Reef dive, to experience a surgery, live and in person, and ask questions of the surgeons while that's occurring. We can give them the opportunity to interact with professors at MIT and be able to think beyond, what they see day to day and what their opportunities are. And so, like I said, we'll defer to our friends at KSBA on the rate issue, but as far as a community partner, we've been very pleased with our work with Kentucky Power. Thank you.
Thank you. I may not be able to read this name correctly because of the writing, but Kim Leonberg.
You did very well.
Thank you.
I'm Kim Leonberg, and I'm from Wurtland, Kentucky. My husband and I are both retired, both living on a fixed income. I happen to have my electric bill from July 2nd, 1998. My electric bill for 1,067 kilowatts was only $53.36. Pretty good. 19 years later, my electric bill that's for this month that I'm going to be paying, I used 998 kilowatts. My electric bill, $98.77. I know we've talked in percentages on the increases that Kentucky Power have done. Way I see, for 19 years, that's a 100% increase. Not only that I paid, but everybody has paid. 100% increase in rates. That was one question I had. The second question I have, they talked about in this increase that they're going to do away with the Big Sandy 1 Operation Rider. Please clarify for me, is that what we're paying for the Mitchell plant now? I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that's what it's for. They say they're going to take that off of our bill now, but they're going to include it in on our rate. So that means we will forever be paying for the Mitchell plant. So instead of as a rider that it will eventually be paid out, we're going to continue paying for it. My other comment, the gentleman back here just hit on it a few minutes ago. I kept receiving a letter every month from Kentucky Power. It was giving me a similarity of my usage to similar homes. And it was always telling me that I was way over what I should be using, to the average home. During the summer, I usually use around 2,000 kilowatts. So it made me think, wow, maybe I should be doing something to help lower my rate. Because maybe I am using too much. So I looked around and thought about it. Well, for the past year now, I have been in a big home renovation. Last October, we tore off half of our house. I didn't have a stove. I didn't have a refrigerator. I didn't have a dishwasher. I didn't have a washer. I didn't have a dryer. I didn't have a heat pump. My bill dropped down. My kilowatt usage dropped down to 583. I still get a letter from Kentucky Power telling me I'm using too much power. So that's when I threw them all in the garbage. I thought, that's a big joke. So now here they're saying, we don't have enough usage. Well, you sit and preach to people to cut back. So that's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Rick Davidson.
I'm going to ask Mr. Robert to say everything that I felt.
Okay, thank you. Mary Humphrey.
I don't think I need to come down front. I think I can be heard. And I'm just here.
But you can't be on the record.
Hey, wait, you probably need to come down to be on the record.
I hope I don't fall going down. I'm very unstable when it comes to walking. I'm Mary Humphrey, and I live in Westwood. And I'm just here as a seniors I don't complain about people. I don't really get involved in their salaries. I just go by my income as being a senior citizen, as my husband and I. We're very conservative people. And I know $10 extra a month may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but I know the way that I am being conservative. I gave up my newspaper over a year ago to cut down on our expenses. I gave up my home phone to cut down on expenses, and then they turn around and add the $15 to your tax bill where everybody's giving their phones up to pay for 911. And if my thing is, with this increase, a month, but at the end of the year, it's a good total. At the end of the year, the newspaper was a good total. So I'm all for paying my share and what should be paid, but I'm not for all being increased to pay somebody's salary that doesn't have to cut down on anything and they live a really good life. And don't get me wrong, we stay warm and we eat. But it could get to the place like the guy said. We may not eventually have an income to buy groceries, to put gas in the car to go get the groceries. And that's what I need to think that needs to be considered. Not only big businesses, but the little people has to be looked to and be informed. You know, we want you all to live as comfortable as the people that make big incomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Barker.
This lady over here asked the question that I was going to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thomas Johnston.
Good evening. I'm Thomas Johnston. I live here in Russell, Kentucky. I do appreciate you people letting us talk to you. First thing I'd like to mention is my bill here, I have 9 items but past the residential, you know, the regular billing. It's got that. Then 9 additional costs. And like they've mentioned, some of them, Big Sandy retirement and these things. That is 22.6% of my total bill. Why are all these things on there? Second thing is, they claim that natural gas is used cheaper to make electricity than coal. Well, they've converted our plant, but now, after just 2 years, they're wanting a lot more money on our bill. And a lot of these people are on fixed incomes. That's just not right. No, 2 years ago, I don't remember what they got, but it was a whole lot. And AK Steel shuts down. The railroad shuts down because of coal. Well, you know, they're using less electricity, and they're expecting us to pay for it. The residential people. I don't think that's right. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Joanna King. I live here in Ashland, Kentucky. I am the executive director for the American Red Cross in Eastern Kentucky, and I cover 23 counties, all of which is part of AEP's and Kentucky Power's area. I'm not here to talk about positive or negatives for the rate increase. You know, I am a citizen. I will receive the rate increase just like everybody else does if that's what the commission decides. I am here to talk about the community support that Kentucky Power has offered for disaster relief and other items here in Eastern Kentucky. I am a member of multiple chambers of commerce, including Floyd County, Johnson County, Southeastern, which includes Pike, Perry County, and the Ashland Alliance, and I'm a board member of the Ashland Alliance as well. I'm also a member of the Kentucky Power Community Advisory Panel, the CAP panel, And I don't know that the people here maybe are aware that Kentucky Power has created an advisory panel, which consists of many of the community support people, a lot of the elected officials, your judges, your local commissioners. And that panel is supposed to help support Kentucky Power to make sure that our community has a voice and understands what's going on and the reasons for these rate increases. They understand the economic development, and that they understand what Kentucky Power is doing to help support people in the need for them to increase their personal or decrease their personal usage of electricity by going into homes and making sure that their homes are well insulated and that their bills can then be reduced. But as a Red Cross director, I do want to say that Kentucky Power stepped forward to support a couple of different initiatives of ours, including the smoke alarm installation process. Not only did they help us with a grant process to help support the smoke alarms, but they got out on the streets and they walked home to home making sure that people had smoke alarms in their homes. They have supported us with a grant process through the foundation for an emergency response vehicle, the very first one in eastern Kentucky. This vehicle will be responding to floods, fires, any type of major weather, tornadoes. We appreciate Kentucky Power supporting us. This is money from a foundation that comes through AEP, comes back into eastern Kentucky to support our citizens. So I just want to take a moment and thank them for their community support. While I understand this rate increase is not necessarily about this, we do appreciate that their partnership is something we couldn't do our jobs without. Thank you.
Now, Ms. King was the last person to sign up to speak, so at this time I'd like to ask if anybody else in the audience who has not signed up but having heard all this would like to step forward and make a comment to the commission, please do so now, because this is probably your last chance. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here. We do appreciate your comments, and we'll give them careful consideration. And as we indicated earlier, Kentucky Power, Mr. Satterwhite and his group is here sort of in the middle and to my left and your right. So please take advantage of this opportunity to speak with them. And Ms. Goodman from the Attorney General's office is here, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have as well. So thank you again. And our staff, too, you'll see, are standing around. And so thank you again, and good night.